Look what finally came in the mail! Hi, and welcome to the Book Bar, where everything bookish is on the menu. I'm Anne Jeanette Barr, and I'm going to talk to you today about becoming a literary agent. So my certificate from UCLA Extension came in the mail that says that I have satisfactorily completed the requirements for the certificate in literary representation. So this is not a prerequisite to becoming a literary agent, but that's the route I decided to go because I was coming from a part of the publishing world that was more freelance based, and while I have a lot of relationships in the publishing world, they were primarily with authors and also like literary journals and websites that work for hire, that hire writers, work on a work for hire basis. So I didn't have as many contacts in the traditional publishing editor agent world. I had a few, and I'm almost 40, so it was really difficult to decide the best route to go when I finally decided that what I wanted to do for the rest of my career is to be a literary agent. So I decided to try and find some kind of classes or certification that would allow me to get an internship, and I landed on UCLA Extension has both a writing and editing certificate and a certificate of literary representation. And being a literary agent had definitely been on my radar. I was kind of leaning toward being an acquisitions agent at a publishing house is what I was leaning toward. But the more I learned about literary representation and the more I realized that I would get the privilege, the opportunity of having my hands in lots of different projects and playing that matchmaker across a wide variety of publishing houses and be kind of the go-to person who knew the industry in and out, the more it appealed to me because my personality is very enthusiastic about books, obviously, but you know, that enthusiasm for things that I'm interested in helps me power through doing a lot of study about them, and I can really get to know topics on almost an obsessive level fairly quickly. And so I thought, you know, that's really an asset for someone who needs to know everything about a genre or who needs to know everything about the market for something, or, you know. So I decided to take those classes, and it just turned out so perfectly. Every class was an affirmation that I was in the right spot. I took developmental editing, and I took a couple of courses that were about the publishing process. I took a course about networking. Anyway, I finished my certificate after I had already gotten hired at a literary agency, and so I didn't end up doing that whole internship process. But that's fine too. As I took my courses and as it evolved, I realized that there were lots of different avenues that I could try and use to pursue this career, but I needed to start somewhere. It was an excellent place. So I recommend the UCLA Extension program if you're looking for something, if you're looking for a kind of out-of-the-box way to get into this career. A lot of literary agents come from kind of a parallel track. They're either working for a publishing house or they're an author, and they have a lot of connections, and those connections allow them to become a literary agent, or they're starting very young and that's exactly what they want to be and they know it. And I didn't know it, so this was perfect. And so I ended up applying to be an assistant for, I applied to several jobs, but I ended up getting one as an assistant at Dunham Literary. And I did make a video about what a literary agent does and why I wanted to be one, so I'll link that, which will give you an overview of my job. But if you already know what a literary agent does and you're just excited to find out that I am one and I'm in this business and you want to know about querying me, I will tell you some about my experience so far and the process and what I'm looking for. So after 8 months or so of assisting Jenny Dunham with her client list, I started taking on my own clients, and that was in November, and loving every minute of it. It's been so much fun, and I am open for queries. And so I'm building my list right now. I'm still in the beginning stages of negotiations with my first authors, and it's all very exciting, very intense. But another really fun thing about being a literary agent is that I've gotten to do a ton of teaching and critiquing. I'm judging another contest. I've judged book contests before. I've made videos about that. That is very comfortable for me, and that's a role that literary agents often play. So I'm getting to use some of the experiences that I used in my other publishing jobs right away. But everything in the process of representing authors is new, and I'm learning and growing, and I am just loving it. So it's my job to find authors either via query or pitch sessions or some other way. Sometimes literary agents reach out to authors. I reached out to a couple that I'd already worked with. That's how I started to build my list. We find the authors that we know have talent and who are interested in this general market publishing where agents are most useful. And then we, can help them refine their pitch, help them refine their manuscript if it still needs some work. And then, I'm doing that with some authors, help them start thinking about their author platform and their career as a whole, and then do that matchmaking process where we find an editor who's just going to love that book. And, the editor has to be the right one to shepherd that book into fruition, into completion, because without editors we don't get books. So we get to find that other team member, and then we get to negotiate the contract. We are the author's advocate, so we're really trying to think through which aspects of this contract are going to be the best for the author overall long term. And then we get to make sure that author gets paid, and we finally get paid because agents work on commission. So it's a long process before we get paid. There's a lot leading up to it. So I'm very privileged to have a husband who makes a full-time income and a supplementary income as an assistant. So I can wait for that commission. It's a really difficult thing to get into for people who need to put food on the table, and that's their only job. I've heard that it can take 5 years to work up to a full-time career. So very, very lucky that I have the freedom to do that. That wouldn't have been true years ago. So if I would have known about this career, 20 years ago when I was deciding on my career trajectory, it probably wouldn't have helped me. I'm not sure what I would have done. I grew up in the Midwest. I didn't grow up anywhere near a publishing epicenter, and so yeah, I would have had to make a conscious decision to do things very differently. So I'm feeling very lucky that even though I'm a little late to the game, that I'm here. And actually, I've listened to the stories of literary agents, and there's a big spectrum of ways that people have come into this career. So, and I just got to tell you, if you're watching this because you're interested about literary agents as people, or you're intimidated by it, every agent I have met, and so all the editors I've met, are just great people. They're bookish people. They're people who love literature and ideas, and I haven't had very many negative experiences at all. So, I think sometimes this industry gets a bad rap because we have to make some hard decisions. We have to say no a lot, and that's hard. And no one likes to be told no, but the people I've met have been just wonderful. So I'll put my information in the description below so that you can see my agency website and my manuscript wish list. Other good resources to look for agents on are Query Tracker, the Manuscript Academy. I'm a faculty member on the Manuscript Academy. The AALA, which is the American Association of Literary Agents, has a listing, and everyone who's a member of the AALA has to abide by the AALA canon of ethics. So that's a really good way to be sure that your agent is on the up and up. So I'll put all that information, those links, in the description, but just to give you some information, I represent books for both adults and children, all age ranges from picture book to YA to adult. I represent most genres, fiction and nonfiction. The only things I'm not a huge fan of, and I won't be your best advocate for, are erotica, political nonfiction, most things having to do with politics or sports are not going to grab my attention, and horror, it has to be more like spooky than slasher. So I do like gothic novels, and so some of those fall in the horror realm, but I'm a little sensitive when it comes to horror. So I also don't love true crime. I think because it makes me too anxious. I've got 4 kids and I just don't need anything to happen to me. So, so those are the kind of ones that are out. Everything else is in, but you should look at my manuscript wish list and the things that I like the most. Or if you're here, watch my other videos to get a feel for the type of literature that I like, because if I like it, it's going to catch my attention, because if I like it, I'm better positioned to speak enthusiastically about it to an editor, and I'll be able to find the editor that will also like it because I'll identify with that editor. You know, I'll have a feel for them. I'm also just more likely to be able to give you good advice about writing in those genres and topics, themes that I'm really familiar with. So I do love genre fiction. So romance, fantasy, sci-fi, mystery, all of those are fine. I really love when they have something really substantial about them, either an important issue, although I don't really love issue books. Like if the issue is the whole thing, then you need to work on your plot, in my opinion, and your progression, your character arc, and your plot arc. But I do love when we get to know more about an issue or a career, like a profession, or a type of people, or a culture. That we wouldn't have known if we hadn't read that book, even if the book isn't about that, right? So I like when those big ideas happen in the background. That's true for books with religion or philosophy or ethics or science. Anything like that happening in the background is really probably gonna appeal to me, because it's like the story is the vehicle for those higher thoughts, but not in an allegorical or a very pushy way. You know, it's not about teaching someone about math. It's just there's a lot of math in it, and it's interesting because we're following characters through the story, or it's interesting because we're reading the biography about this mathematician, right? And so in nonfiction, same thing. I love nonfiction that is very accessible, that people who like fiction, if people who like fiction like your nonfiction, then that's a good clue that I might like it. I like it when it's presented as story, because I feel like that's how we learn. That's how I learn. I enjoy learning about people's lives, but it doesn't have to be biography. It's just, it needs to be presented in that narrative structure and format. And in nonfiction, I love topics that have to do with nature, science. Yes, I love. Economics is good. Handcrafts and trades are interesting to me. I do like some how-to tutorial type books, cookbooks and things like that. I just like having some kind of an unusual twist or premise. So send any of that my way if you're an author who writes those things. For children, and so that's picture books, early chapter books, juvenile fiction, middle grade, YA, all of those. I really love books that can be read aloud and shared, and sometimes obviously YA, they're transitioning into adulthood. They may not enjoy this book as a family, but I love when they want to talk about it as a family. So go watch the video I did right before this. I shared with you my top 3 books from last year, and they're actually sitting right here still. And Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir is a good example of that, because I shared it with my teenager and we just loved talking about it. So, so books that can be shared, books you want to share that, you know, get people talking, but they don't have to be just book club fiction. They can be in any genre. So yeah, I have an extensive list of things that I like on manuscriptwishlist.com. And I am on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and obviously YouTube. And you can get to know me in all those places. Do not query me in those places. Please query me through the email that is listed on my website. I'd love to make some more videos on the topic of literary representation. So if you have questions, burning things you want to know about what it's like to be a literary agent, or how to get a literary agent, or you know, anything that I can do to kind of I just gave a talk last week called Demystifying Literary Representation. So anything I can do to help you understand it, I'm happy to do. And I'll make videos in the future. If I get a lot of questions, I may just do a Q&A. But yeah, I'm happy to use this platform to talk a little bit more about that. Although I primarily just want to talk about books. So again, if you're new here and if you found me just because I'm talking about being a literary agent, go back and watch my other books. I promise that, or my other books, go back and watch my other videos. I promise that most of them are just me geeking out about my favorite books, and that's what I love about the writing and reading community, and I'm so glad you're here. So I hope that you get in touch if you are an author who is querying, and I just want to encourage you that if I say no or if anyone says no, no is not the same as a rejection. You have a book that has readers out there, but I may not be the right agent for you, and you don't want me to say yes if I'm not the right agent for you, because you need an advocate who is the perfect advocate for you so that you can get your book to the perfect editor for you, so that your editor can find the perfect readers for you. So hope you guys are well, and leave me comments. Bye.